Sri Sairam. I offer my humble pranams at Bhagwan's divine lotus feet. Sairam to all gathered here for the 145th Samarpan program organized today by the Anantapur alumni of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. It is a very, very auspicious occasion for us today because after a long gap due to the pandemic, for the first time, we alumni are able to organize this Samarpan here in the divine precincts of Brindavan. Our heartfelt gratitude to Bhagwan for giving us this opportunity. A hearty welcome to today's speaker, our own teacher, Professor Rajeshwari C Patel. We welcome you, ma'am. I welcome all gathered here. It is a happy homecoming for all of us. Personally, it is a double blessing for me. Firstly, as I stand here this afternoon, my joy knows no bounds, for I have been able to come to Brindavan for Samarpan after a long time. And secondly, because I have this opportunity to introduce my teacher, my mentor, and also my former colleague, Professor Rajeshwari C Patel. Rajeshwari ma'am, as we all know her, daughter of late Sri Chhotabhai L Patel and late Srimati Shardaben C Patel, came to Swami in 1972 from East Africa. Ever since then, Professor Patel has been closely associated with Bhagwan's educational mission for over 5 decades now. Ma'am was the youngest inmate to join the Sri Sathya Sai Girls Hostel at Anantapur as a schoolgirl, a special permission and command that Bhagwan himself had given her and her family. She studied in the local school in Anantapur at that time. Later, she went on to complete her pre-university course and graduation from the erstwhile Sri Sathya Sai Arts and Science College for Women in Anantapur. Upon completing her master's and PhD in English language and literature from Sri Krishnadevaraya University, Anantapur, ma'am joined as faculty in the Department of English of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus in 1985. Dr. Patel became a professor in 2011 and also served as the director of the Anantapur campus from 2017 to 2022. Other than these, she has held several responsible administrative positions through the years. She has been living up to the message given to her by Bhagwan, transform knowledge into action. In her long association with Bhagwan and his institutions, 2 most important attributes that stand out, personally for me, are 1, excellence in everything that she pursues, and 2, her absolute devotion and dedication to the Sai mission. Ma'am's excellent academic records has earned her laurels all through her student days. An avid reader of literature, ma'am has contributed her research articles in several academic journals. She has spoken in the Divine Presence and many other forums innumerable times at Bhagwan's behest and have held the audience in awe. She has also scripted and directed several plays that were enacted in the Divine Presence during his visits to the Anantapur campus as well as at Prashanti Nilayam. I remember watching one such play, Mirdad. Some of the actors in that play are here in the audience today. This play was enacted at Anantapur campus when Bhagwan visited the campus. Later, Bhagwan commanded that this play be enacted at Prashanti Nilayam during the All India Vice Chancellors meet. I cherish the memories of working with Madam while preparing students for another play enacted in the Divine Presence for the Ladies' Day program. Over the decades, Ma'am has inspired batches of students with her teaching, mentoring, and her dedication to Bhagwan in whatever she did. I had the privilege of working with her in the department as colleagues. The transition from being Ma'am's student to being her colleague happened most seamlessly with her, and that taught me lessons in professionalism. The way she held the department together gave me insights into principles of leadership that Bhagwan has taught us. And the most remarkable underlying message that I personally and every other student got at every step was everything she did in the most meticulous way, be it teaching, guiding students academically, or in the extracurricular activities, be it at the dispensary, taking care of children who needed medical care, or when she held the reins of the hostel mess for a short time, be it the responsibilities of the Secretary of the Messengers of Sai, a position Bhagwan himself conferred on her, be it her programs in Radio Sai, leading the department as the head, or taking charge of the campus as the director, it has always been a dedication to Bhagwan's lotus feet and not just her personal accomplishment. I certainly do not want to talk any longer because Ma'am has been my mentor for over 3 decades. And if I want to, I can go on the whole hour. I'll stop here now with one more small word. I convey my gratitude to Ma'am on behalf of all the alumni for agreeing to speak to us today, and also on behalf of all the alumni, all the innumerable students whom you have mentored through the years. Thank you, Ma'am, for being there. I now call upon Professor Rajeshwari Patel, Ma'am, to address the gathering. Professor Rajeshwari C Patel.
Om Sri Sairam. Om Sri Sairam. I offer my loving salutations at the divine lotus feet of beloved Bhagwan. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, and my dear students, Sairam to everybody. Some years ago, I was asked to speak at the Samarpan here in Brindavan. But at the time, I said that probably that will not happen. And so I said no, not in Brindavan. But as Dr. Paramita has said, probably the time was right this time round. And when I was approached, I said, if you give me some time, I will think about it and get back to you on this. I'm glad that I accepted your invitation to speak, because I see before me all the finished products of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, whom we had offered to Bhagwan every year as they passed out of the portals of the Anantapur campus. Just seeing them all gives me a lot of joy. And I don't know whether in this, I think I have about an hour. And now I think that probably 1 hour will not be enough. Thank you, Dr. Paramita, for this very heartwarming introduction that you gave to me. After listening to her, I realized what a great responsibility it is to be a teacher in Bhagwan's college. Especially because you are molding young minds, not only imparting secular knowledge, but also instilling in them human values. I will spend a couple of minutes in telling you about my upbringing. I'm not going to talk about how I came to Swami in 1972. As she said, I came from East Africa, and to be more specific, from Kampala. Bhagwan used to often refer to my sister and me as Kampala girls. For a long time, he kept saying Kampala girls. After that, he said Patel sisters. So, I have spoken at other Samarpans and on different occasions, but never at Anantapur campus about how I came to Swami. When last time they told me that, ma'am, you have not spoken to the students, they don't know anything about you except what they see in front of their eyes, then I said, when I'm leaving, then I will speak to them. But it didn't happen. So I think those of you who have heard me at other Samarpans already know how I came to Bhagwan, so I don't want to repeat those things. But I just want to tell you that what kind of upbringing I had. Very moral and very religious. Because both my parents were very upright and noble people. Both of them inspired me in different ways. They taught us discipline at a young age. You know, my father was very strict, even though we were staying abroad. At 6 p.m., we had to come back home, even if we had gone out to play. 6 p.m. meant 6 p.m., not 6:05. That is how strict he was. So we had to be back by 6 sharp. And all of us sisters, when we came back to the house, had to wash up, light the diya, and pray in front of God. I don't know if some of you are familiar with this beautiful devotional song, Tumi ho mata, pita ho. That is the song we learnt at that age. So we used to sing that in front of God, and only after that we would be served dinner. My brother had 1 hour bonus. He could come back by 7. Again, not 7:05. So if he came at 7:05, he would find out from my mother where my father was, because otherwise he'll have to enter from the back door. So that is how strict they were. And I just remember that as a little girl, the lullabies that my mother sang were folk songs based on the life of Krishna. If any of you are familiar, there is, first line of one of the songs, it says, Nahi jau re, gavaladi charavane, Yashoda mavadi. So, you know, we knew these songs. As we were sleeping, my mother did not sing any nursery rhymes. These were the songs that she sang. And even in her last few days, she used to sit outside on the veranda, and then she used to sing those same songs. And if my father was putting us to sleep, he would narrate to us stories from the Bhagavad or the Mahabharata. So even though I was staying, abroad, our upbringing was such that we never lost touch with our culture, Bharatiya Sanskriti. So in 1977, there was a summer course held at Brindavan. I think that in the flyer which has been making the rounds, you see me holding a trophy which Bhagwan is giving to me. That was 1977 summer course. I got the first prize at that All India summer course. In later years it was only the institutions, but in the early years, 72 onwards, it used to be All India summer course where we had students from all parts of the country and abroad. And the topic for the elocution, of course it was extempore, but the topic was, what is the metamorphosis that you have undergone after coming to Bhagwan? The principal and the teachers of the Department of English, who were trying to collect names, they called me and they said that you should participate. And I never refused in any way if I could contribute something to the campus. But the thing was, what was the content of my talk? I did not undergo any metamorphosis when I came to Bhagwan. Coming to Bhagwan for me was a fulfillment. it was an extension of my life, even as a child, with my parents abroad. So I never felt that, I underwent some kind of a transformation or a sudden change in my personality or anything. For me, it was fulfillment. I felt most comfortable in Bhagwan's college because I could freely do what I liked without anybody commenting on me. I used to, inspired by my father, was very, very devoted to God. He used to read the Bhagavad Gita twice every day. So you can imagine. I used to get up even as a schoolgirl when I was abroad. I used to get up early in the morning. You'll be surprised if I tell you that I used to get up at 4 o'clock when everybody else was asleep, have my bath, and I used to then do meditation. I had a morning school, so to be ready by 8 o'clock. Before that, I used to go to the temple which was there nearby, a Sanatan Dharma Mandir in Kampala, which was very close to our house. Go there, pray to God, come back with the prasadam, and then go to. So there was no metamorphosis for me. I felt a fulfillment. The only problem that I faced at Anantapur when I joined there as a high school girl was the food habits. I was not at all familiar with, of course, I'm a pure vegetarian, always was and will be, but I didn't know how to eat that South Indian food, So I had to watch the girl sitting next to me, and then if she mixed the chutney, then I would also mix the chutney and eat. So I used to watch, and in a way, yes, I used to miss the taste of the food that we got when my mother was cooking. And, in my own childish way, whenever I missed my mother, so I came to Bhagwan. There was no school of Bhagwans at that time in 72, so I joined as, it was told, the only English medium school in Anantapur town at that time. And I used to really miss being at home. Whenever I missed my mother, Swami would make sure he would come to Anantapur campus. Surprise visit. So he never allowed me to feel out of place. And of course, whenever he came, he would inquire how we were, my sister and me. My sister was also there with me. So I never felt, in any case, to brief it down, I never felt a misfit. I didn't have any problems adjusting to the routine, the discipline, etc., because, that was how I was brought up. What attracted me to Bhagwan in the first place? If you have heard my story of how we came to Swami, you will know that I was reluctant to come to Anantapur. Especially because I didn't want to leave the safety of home. And at that time, our country was alien to me, and a lot of, especially South India, I didn't even know the language then. So I knew Gujarati, of course. That was a rule. We had to talk to our parents only in Gujarati. So, and among ourselves, we used to talk in English. And of course, at the school, I learned French. So beyond that, so what attracted me to Swami was his teachings. Of course, a lot of people told us about Swami. But what attracted me, even as a young girl, was Bhagwan's teachings. Not theoretical teachings, practical teachings. what also attracted me was the simplicity of Bhagwan's teachings. Bhagwan explained the most complex idea in Sanatan Dharma in very easy, understandable terms. So I became a natural student of Bharatiya Sanskriti. I used to read. I started reading. I used to be always a very avid reader. But I started reading about our culture after coming into physical proximity with Bhagwan, because in those days, Bhagwan used to often speak to us about our culture. So I wanted to know some more about it, though of course I learned a lot from my father, but even then, I will have to confess that I must have read all the books on the religion racks in the Anantapur library. That is the extent of my reading at that time. There's not a single book I have not touched. If the new books have come afterwards, I don't know. Otherwise, you'll find my name signed there on every library card, which is inside the book. That is the kind of reading I did. And I used to read also at a sort of a pace like that. So after reading all that, what I understood is that the complex philosophy of the Bharatiyas was summed up in very simple terms by Bhagwan. For example, paropkaraya punyaya papaya parapidanam, which is the essence of the Bhagavatam. And what did Swami say? Help ever, hurt never. And I remember later on, in some years ago, in Prashanti Nilayam, we were all sitting for darshan, and Bhagwan was seated on his chair and then asked for a mic. One of the boys who used to recite the Vedas went to Swami, or Swami called him and he went, or whatever. And then Swami, said, because I used to also have a complex, because when we were students, we were taught the Bhakti Yoga of the Bhagavad Gita. I knew all the stotrams and all the hymns and so on. But Bhagwan did not introduce us to the Vedas at that young age. You know how it is good to learn at a young age, then you won't forget. So I used to want to learn. And I had this sort of a regret that I didn't learn the Vedas and that I could not recite along with others in the hall. That thought was in my mind, and Swami called this person and then asked for the mic to be brought, and he said that if you do not know the Vedas or cannot recite the Vedas, it doesn't matter. Just recite Om Namo Narayanaya. That is enough. So, that thought which was there in my mind, right away he has expressed. So, this is what attracted me to Swami. He makes it so easy for us to learn and understand. I suppose some of you who have actually listened to Bhagwan's discourses during Dashara, the early discourses also, how scientifically Bhagwan explained the meaning of yajna. That is what really attracted me to Bhagwan, because, as I said, already the upbringing was such that I didn't have any problem adjusting to this whole new setup. But this was so interesting. That is why even now, if you ask me, for me, Swami is God. Of course he is God. But more than anything, I look upon him as a teacher, as a world teacher. Because he has explained difficult ideas, complex ideas, in very simple terms, and especially for the younger generation, those who are not orthodox followers, it is very, very easy to understand him. In this context, I would like to share, because I mentioned Dashera. As I told you, I used to read a lot, so I picked up one book from the library, Yoga Vashishta. I don't know if any of you have come across it. It's one of those fantastic books. Yoga Vashishta is written by Vashishta. It is, of course, in Sanskrit, and I was reading this book, which had translations at the end of each shloka, and I was reading this book during the 10 days of Dashera. And in the afternoon, I was sitting outside our room there at Prashanthi Nilayam, and I came across this verse, which made me get so excited that I called my father, who was inside, and I said, "Papa, just look at this. How well Vashishta has described the Atma, spiritual life, and summed it up in just 2 lines. And, I told him about it, and we both, and he said that, "This is what you've been reading?" I said, "Yes, I've been reading this for the past few days." Okay. Evening, we went to the Purna Chandra auditorium for Bhagwan's discourse. And I was still full of that, of course, sitting there waiting for Bhagwan to come, and then he came, and of course all the proceedings, and finally came Bhagwan's discourse. And in the course of that discourse, Bhagwan quoted those 2 lines, that shloka. And I thought in my mind, I've heard this. Because just that afternoon I was telling about it to my father. So I thought that, Swami is also saying that Yoga Vashishta is a wonderful book, and so he has quoted from the Yoga Vashishta. And that exactly that verse, what kind of a coincidence would that be, right? But after that, after having quoted and spoken about it, Bhagwan mentioned, and he said, "This is what Vashishta says, but this is what I say." So he then made me realize that even that is a limited knowledge. Bhagwan is the pinnacle of all wisdom, and I don't need to actually read any of these books because he epitomizes everything. So what I understood is you can just blindly follow Swami. People say don't blindly follow anybody, but I would say, yes, I can blindly follow our Lord. He will never lead us astray. And it was his way of, because that means that Bhagwan was present when I was having this discussion with my father, and he knew how excited I was and full of admiration, and then he made me, put my head back on my shoulders and said, "Well, that is not everything." So that's how he taught me a lot of lessons. Now, I started by telling you that what attracted me to Bhagwan was his teachings. I would like to disappoint you by saying that I'm not going to talk about miracles. Bhagwan used to say that miracles are his visiting cards. It's a starting point to draw us to him. But if after having experienced a lot of miracles, if these miracles do not necessarily bring about any change or transformation in us, then what's the point of listening to more and more miracles? And that's why, of course, I've had my own share of remarkable experiences, but I'm not going to share them now, with you. I will focus on only the teachings, the lessons that I learned. Now, coming to this key line, translate knowledge into action. when Shalini Rajan asked me, is there anything that you can take your time, think about it, but can you give us one line that would be a kind of a focus? I said, I don't need time. I'll tell you right now. Translate knowledge into action. That is how much this particular line is so important to me, and around which I can say I have woven my life with Swami. But to explain why that is so important, let me tell you that when I was in school in Kampala, I was called the quietest girl in the school. Why Swami made me become a teacher, I don't know, where you have to talk a lot. But I was the quietest girl in school. And so when I came to 7th grade, I was made the school prefect because I was always very disciplined and punctual and whatnot. You will not believe it if I tell you that till today, I never got scoldings from any teacher of mine, either at Anantapur or in the school or wherever. So that is the reason why I was chosen to be the school prefect, maybe because they saw there was some exemplary behavior, the kind of behavior required by school authorities. I lived in my own world, that's what I want to say. I used to read, think, very reflective by nature, and very philosophical. I used to follow my father's example. He hardly used to speak, but when he spoke, he was very measured in what he spoke. But because of him, as I told you, I developed a love for Bharatiya Sanskriti, and so I read a lot of books. I used to, even at that young age, I used to have discussions with my father on Maya and Brahman and all that, and carried the same passion to college when I came to Anantapur. So I used to spend, some of you who have been my roommates, you will probably remember, because there are a couple of seniors, then there are a couple of my contemporaries, and then there are quite a few of my students here. We used to spend Sunday morning in the room debating on various ideas. I carried that to the college hostel. And fellow students used to see me. Sometimes I used to come out of the room and just enjoy looking at the sky and be in my own thoughts. What made them come to me? All classes, my seniors, my juniors, everybody who were not even my classmates would come to me sometimes and see me alone and said, can we talk to you? Then I used to say, yes, what is it? And they used to share their personal problems, knowing that I would not reveal their personal problems to anyone. So that is the kind of thing. Basically, I was like that. So much so that there was one teacher of mine, Ms. Sudha Nair, and when we were leaving, after completing my BA, she gave all of us students who were in the advanced English class, it was called advanced English, not optional English in those days, she gave all of us one title. For example, I had a classmate whose name was Tulasi. So she wrote a short little piece on Leaf Beloved of Krishna. And what is the title you think she gave me? She called me Scholar Gypsy. Those of you who know about Matthew Arnold and his poem Scholar Gypsy, she called me Scholar Gypsy because she's saying that's how you were. I used to meditate a lot, read a lot. Whenever I was free, I used to go to the library. My classmates knew where I would be. If the library was too noisy, I would go to an empty classroom in the college and sit and read there. Now this habit of reading became my strength in my research days, and I enjoyed the pursuit of knowledge, and I was able to relate to Tennyson's Ulysses, to follow knowledge like a sinking star. Why am I telling you all this? It will become clear to you in a short while. Now, after I completed my BA then in Bhagwan's college, Bhagwan instructed me to pursue my master's in English language and literature, but the master's course was not at the time there in the campus. So I had to commute from the campus to it was SK University, but at that time it was called Autonomous Postgraduate Center. So I was doing my master's there, and Bhagwan told the warden that I should be allowed to stay in the hostel and commute. So I stayed in the hostel for 2 to 2.5 years. Because of strikes and whatnot, the 2-year course became almost 2.5 years course in that university. And it is around this time, in 1981, that Bhagwan formed the Alumni Association. He called it at that time, because there was already an Alumni Association of the boys, it was called Kingdom of Sathya Sai. So he named our association as Kingdom of Mother Sai. Later on, when we used to get our accounts audited regularly, there was an objection to the word kingdom, because we don't have any kingdoms anymore in this country, what Sardar Patel and others did. So the word kingdom was not appropriate, they said, and so Bhagwan himself changed the name to Messengers of Sathya Sai. Now, at that time, I was doing still my master's. And Swami called all the old students who were in Puttaparthi or at Anantapur to Prashanti Nilayam. And we were all in the prayer hall there. And the principal, Hemlata madam, was reading out the names of the students who were present there. The hall was full almost. And then he picked up. He would look at her and nod, which means she can tick those names. So after the whole roll call was over, she read out the names of the students who would go from there to the interview room. So then a smaller number went to the interview room, and as usual, I was sitting behind. I didn't like to use horsepower and push and sit in the front. I was always content to be at the back, because I knew that if Swami wanted to talk to me, he would find me there. I didn't have to really rush. If it normally and naturally I got a front place, that was fine. So I was sitting right at the back. In fact, why I'm saying this is because I was sitting near the fan switch, the light switches. So I was right there at the back. And Swami was generally talking about the Alumni Association and whatnot. And he said that you people can decide among yourselves who will be the secretary, who will be the president, vice president, treasurer, etc. But fortunately, all of us who were there, we insisted that Bhagwan should decide and not us. I don't want to go into the details of that, but Swami said, all right, let me first select the secretary. So that was the first position that he decided. And he started saying that, the secretary has a lot of work to do, has to write a lot of letters, organize events, this, that. So a lot of work. So like that, he started looking, of course, he spotted me there, and he did that. Patel, he said. So I stood on my knees and I said, yes, Swami. And he asked me, will you be the secretary? Then I said, not my wish, your command. Then he told the principal, So then she will be the secretary. At that time, there was one line description that he gave. He said, for the post of secretary, we need somebody who is sincere and permanent. I didn't know what that meant at that time, but you can see that I am permanent here with Swami. Did not move out of that fold into any other, okay? So I think Swami was looking ahead. And I was telling you that I was enjoying living in my own world of books and meditation and sadhana. I used to do a lot of sadhana. But he made me secretary of the Messengers of Sathya Sai, And I myself called it upon myself because when he asked, I said, not my wish, your agya. I said, agya, your command. But anyway, because Swami handed over that responsibility to me, I plunged myself into that role and with diligence. I didn't know what I was supposed to do as secretary. So, as she was saying, I always had this professional approach. I went to the library to read on what is the role of a secretary. And then I actually put down the points of what is my job as secretary and what I should do. As I went about it in all the sincerity and the professionalism and all that. And somewhere down the line, let me be very honest, because we organized village service camps, medical camps, and a lot of that. But somewhere down the line, meantime I joined the college, etc., all that happened. I started missing my life before becoming the secretary of the Messengers of Sathya Sai. And, I don't know, maybe Swami was molding me for something else later on, which I was not aware of, but I wanted to continue my sadhana peacefully and did not want this very hectic job as sort of like an administrator, because it meant a lot of work. We didn't have any office, mind you. So my room was the office. Some of you, of course, have helped me to write the addresses on the envelopes. We used to physically write, and we used to have a kind of a factory, and everybody used to pass on, and finally we put the letters in and post them and all. And we had a lot of things like that. So I decided that I should ask Swami to relieve me of the position of secretary. So that was the decision forming in my mind. I can be there, but not as secretary. Let somebody else do it, so that I can withdraw from that very, very active life. And each time I thought strongly about it, Bhagwan would call us for an interview. Coincidence? Each time. But when he called us for the interview, he would not give me a chance to talk to him about this. You know how Swami is very good at that. You may have a whole list of questions or whatever, doubts, but if he does not will it, he will just not make it possible for you to ask. It happened at least twice. Finally, once I decided that, I'm going to write to Swami, and I'm not going to allow myself to be distracted at all, okay, even when he calls. And he called. He called very next day. And when we went there, I was going on, repeating in my mind this question, this decision of mine. I thought when Swami stops, he was talking about some things, in general to just a small group of us, messengers. And he was going on talking about so many things, and I was not allowing myself to get distracted. I was going on thinking about this. When Swami gives a pause, I will ask this question. Suddenly, when my recitation became very vigorous, Swami was talking about something unrelated to anything. It was about service activities, etc. He suddenly turned to me and, with a kind of a serious face, he said, translate knowledge into action. So then I got the answer. Don't live in the world of books and in your own world. What you know has to get translated into action. So that is what I started doing very, very diligently after that. Of course, whatever I took up, even before that, I did my best. But somewhere at the back of my mind, that thought was there. Now Swami cleared that. Now translate knowledge into action. What does this mean? Bhagwan has always made fun of bookish knowledge. I hope all of us know that. He says that it is lower than practical wisdom. He often used to say that, you may know all about botany and yet not know the value of tulsi. So, bookish knowledge is a waste of time. I have this very beautiful quote, actually, when 2 days back, with all my busy schedule, I make it a habit that my sister and I, we read some page we open in Sathya Sai Speaks, and then just read. And will you believe it? Just 2 days before, I opened the page, and what did I find? There are many who have stacked libraries in their brains, who have visited and venerated all the holy places between the Himalayas and the Cape, who have sat at the feet of every one of the contemporary sages and saints, who have performed all the rites prescribed in the sacred texts, but who do not know the answer to the simple question, how to bring about the union between Jiva and Brahman. Or rather, they do not set about the practice of what they have heard or learned. So, Swami was getting connected into my brain. I gave this line, translate knowledge into action, maybe 1.5 months ago. But when I opened that page, I knew it. So he's aware. Of course, he's aware. But he made me understand that he's aware that I'm going to speak on the 18th of June. Even Shankara's teachings in the Bhaja Govindam, what does he say? Nahi nahi rakshati dukrun karane. So your mastery of the rules of grammar will not free you from the cycle of birth and death. So we need to live the teachings. And according to me, that is the way to offer grateful worship to Bhagwan. Bhagwan, who has shaped our minds and our character. And how do you repay? How do you return the debt we owe to him? When we used to say anything Swami did for us, and we used to say, thank you, Swami, he used to say, no. Thank you is for somebody else. You don't need to thank Swami. But that doesn't mean that we should not be grateful. Swami was just showing that he's one of us and he's not an outsider to whom you would thank. You don't thank your mother and father, he used to say, then why, do you need to? Now, some of the teachings which I learned, which I practiced and am practicing, I would like to talk about them. One is positive thinking. When I came to Swami in 1972, I already told you that I had some knowledge of our scriptures from my parents. And I was studying in an English school, so I knew something about Christianity. I had read the Bible also. In fact, I've read all the religious texts of all the religions, including Quran. So I have read all that. And what I understood in most of these texts is that man is seen as a sinner. What I liked about Swami was, because I used to watch Swami, observe every action of his, every word of his, and he said, the Atma is pure and unsullied. It is the karmic actions which bring impurity. The Atma is not a papi. Don't use that word. Now, after hearing about how I am a sinner, all the years of my childhood and all that, from all the religious texts, and then suddenly Swami says, no talking about sin. You must think of yourself as innately good. That becomes a very powerful energy that will make you go ahead. In that context, I remember, I think I was still a student, those who are associated with the Bal Vikas movement, you may remember that they had brought out a book, a kind of a diary for the Bal Vikas students, in which you had to note down what all you have done in the day and all that. And in that list also were mentioned the wrong actions you did, that I told a lie or I harmed somebody and all that. And Swami said, remove all the negative, retain only the positive. The more you bring in the positive, the more a person will change. In this context, I will just give you an example of the power of suggestion. Supposing in the morning you go to work or you go to the college and somebody says, what's wrong with you? You're looking very pale. And you say, no, nothing is wrong with me, I'm fine. Again, afternoon, somebody comes across, your path and then, says, are you not well? You're looking quite sick. Then I say, no, I'm fine. Again, in the evening, somebody tells you that something is wrong. I think you're not well. By the time it's night, you have become sick. You see, the power of suggestion is such that when somebody repeats that over and over to you, at one point, you will actually absorb it as true. And your brain, your mind, all your nerve centers, everything collects that information and you actually become that. So the more positively you think about yourself, what are the good acts I did? What is the kindness I showed? Did I help in the kitchen? Did I, wash the car for my father? Things like that. I mean, you do something positive and note it down. What will happen to the child? He will be always thinking about the positive. So what impact that will make. So that is one very beautiful lesson I learned when Swami said, remove all the negative. I understood. See, this is how Swami has shaped all of us. I mean, do you think that when Swami looked at us, he knew how many faults we had? But did he ever point out those faults? That was the secret between us and him. He never revealed it to anybody. That's how he made us want to be better and good in his eyes. And then, of course, we became good anyways. So when we want to please God and we want to become good for his sake, then it becomes second nature after a while. The other one, is, I think I have just 15 minutes. Okay, was speak the truth. Whenever Swami used to call us for an interview or and I think my sister also experienced the same thing. He would ask about generally how things are, how is the food, how is this, how is that. And everybody would say, very good, Swami, very good. Okay. And he will say, where is Patel? Ask Patel. She will tell the truth. Because, even to please Swami, we did not tell what we didn't think was right. Because we knew he's God, he knows already what it is. Just to make Swami happy, as if he's not God and doesn't know anything. So he is invariably, I'm not joking, it has happened on several occasions, he would say, ask Patel. So he knew that Patel will speak the truth. In this context, I just mentioned something quite interesting. Once, during the Christmas, when we had the annual day celebrations of the messengers of Sathya Sai, I was instructed to say something. And when I spoke, after giving the report, when I spoke a few words, I mentioned certain things, which may not have pleased everybody. After a week or so, I had gone to the administrative building for the question paper scrutiny board meeting. In those days, it used to be held in the academic council hall in the first floor. So I was sitting with all the external professors, because those days they used to call some externals, and a couple of our teachers of the department, and Professor Sampath came, because this happened during the time when he was Vice Chancellor. He came with Professor Nanjundaya. And we were busy doing our work, and Professor Nanjundaya came to me and he said that Professor Sampath wants to speak to you. So he took me to the other side of that academic hall, and then he said, Dr. Patel, how could you speak like that on 25th December? I said, what? Then he said, you spoke like that. I don't want to mention the details for various reasons, but why did you say all that? Then I didn't give a reply. There are some things I will not tell, even if it is the Vice Chancellor. Because for me, Swami is supreme. So I didn't want to tell. Then he on his own continued. And he said, I went to Bhagwan and I told Bhagwan that day, look at her. How could she speak like that? Then Swami, then I said, what did Swami say? Then he said, Swami said, what is wrong? She spoke the truth. So is there anything wrong in speaking the truth? Then Professor Sampath said, I told Swami, okay, she spoke the truth, but to an international audience, in front of everybody. Then Swami said, have you given her any other forum from where she can speak? That's the only forum she has, so she will speak from there. That is what he taught us. Speak the truth. And I don't think that, I have any regrets about it, because, Swami was my big defense on that day, right? So that's the thing. The other teaching or lesson I learned was, be true to yourself. Be yourself. Be natural. Don't pretend. Don't pretend to be holy when you are not. Don't pretend to be good or disciplined when you are not. Be yourself. Gradually, there will be some point of time when you will realize from your mistakes. But, Bhagwan hates people behaving very good and humble in front of him, and behind being so arrogant and egoistic. And Swami sees through all of it. He may not tell us on our face, but he sees through all of it. So I always believed, be true to yourself, be natural, because that will take us a long way. Once we were getting ready to, the campus ready and the hostel ready, visitors hall, for Bhagwan's visit. And there were a couple of students with me. I don't know if any one of you were with me. I was a teacher at that time. And one of the students asked me, while we were arranging the room, what, according to you, ma'am, is true spirituality? And I did not hesitate before giving the reply, harmony of thought, word, and deed. That is true spirituality. Because it's not that japa and tapa and dhyanam, that is not spirituality. What you speak, what you think, and what you do, all of it should be in balance and harmony. Stand up for your beliefs. Stand up for justice. You know, I believe that at various times, both as a student, then as a teacher, and later as an administrator, I stood up for my beliefs and what I believe Bhagwan likes. I don't care if anybody higher than me will say anything opposite. I will not budge from my beliefs. That is the courage I got from being with Swami for so long. Because Swami is watching us all the time. Are you giving in? Are you, contaminating the teachings, manipulating, interpreting Bhagwan's teachings according to your convenience? So, this morning I was listening to Man Ki Baat, which was held early this time because our Prime Minister Modi is going to the US next week. And he was, in the context of that, he spoke about Swachhata Abhiyan. I think all of us know that by now. And then my sister called from Australia, and she had heard the Man Ki Baat by then, and in the afternoon after that, and she was saying, he said all that. And, you who are alumni, you should take it up in a big way. Decide on an area. Of course, we do our medical. In fact, we used to do village cleaning also in our days as messengers. And at that time, even I remember we told Swami, and he said, yes, clean up the Puttaparthi. And we were sweeping and cleaning the village, and a lot of people made fun of us. But you see, why were they making fun of us? Foolishly, they were thinking that we are cleaning Puttaparthi village once and for all. And so they were thinking practically, what will one day of cleaning do? But what was Bhagwan's message through us? So we didn't care. A lot of people were making fun, but we didn't care. Because we knew that what Swami was saying, you do the cleaning, it will inspire the people on the sides of the road, the shopkeepers, also to do the same and to maintain. At least they will feel embarrassed by the fact that, they're keeping the place untidy. So you see, this mass movement, and I remember, some years ago, when we were staying in West 4C23, room which Swami allotted to us in first instance. And in those days, there used to be, concrete dustbins, built on every floor of every block. Those of you who have seen Prashant Nilayam, then you know it. And our room was very close to that dustbin there, that concrete little place where everybody in that wing and all used to dump all the garbage there. And we used to eternally have problems with monkeys coming there and dirtying up the place, and if we are not careful, even get inside the rooms and all that. Everybody was harassed. finally, one day, my sister and I, we decided we have to get rid of these dustbins. You see, we have to be proactive. That's what Swami has taught us. Don't be resigned to what the situation is. You can do something about it, do it. And we went to the office of Prashant Nilayam, and they said that, no, but you'll have to get approval letters from all those who are staying in your block. So we drafted one letter, and my sister went to every room and got their signatures, convinced them. Because you see, people are lazy. They don't want to go down, so the easiest thing is drop it there on the floor. Sometimes some of people used to empty their garbage bins right outside that dustbin. So finally we succeeded, but we convinced them, going door to door. And will you believe it? They removed the dustbins from all the floors of our block, but eventually removed all the dustbins in all the blocks of the whole mandir. And that reduced the monkey menace. So we have to stand up for our beliefs, and probably, as alumni, we can become more proactive and contribute something to this Swachhta Abhiyan in a big way, instead of being content to be there in our own role, because there's a lot to be done still in our country. Actually, I think time is up, but I wanted to speak about Mirdad, which may be on some other occasion. I read this book, English translation of Mirdad. Mikhail Naimi is a Lebanese writer. And he wrote this as a book. It goes into a few pages. But somebody from Bangalore translated this into English and wrote it in the form of a play. And that is the book which came into my hands. Later, of course, I bought the original book of Mikhail Naimi. And that was when I was a student. And some of my contemporaries, we used to gather on the terrace of the hostel, and we used to take parts and read out. And we used to enact it. In the preface to this book, the translator writes there that he offered a copy of this book to Bhagwan in Brindavan when the first copy came out. So that means he was a devotee of Swami's. And he had the hope that one day some youngsters will put up this play. He never dreamt that it would be put up in front of Bhagwan himself. Who thought? At that time I was a student, and I went to the principal and I said, "Ma'am, this is an excellent text. If you give me permission, I can convert this into a play, shorter version, and we can put it up in front of Swami." Then she said, no, all this. And she said, "Let me have a look at it." In fact, I wrote the script at that time. I gave her only the script and not the translation. And she read it, and after 2 days she called me and she says, "It's too philosophical. Swami won't enjoy it." So it was postponed. Then I came back as a teacher, and as Dr. Paramita was saying, I directed a few plays. And every time Swami used to come to the campus, he will ask, "English play, unda?" Because he used to look forward to it. And on some occasions, we were not doing an English play. So the message went that, do an English play, Swami will like it. And when I directed the plays, it was always serious, obviously. But when Swami enjoyed all those plays, then once, the principal, Hemlata madam, called me to her chamber and she said, "Rajeshwari, I think you can do that play which you wanted to do when you were a student." So I had the good fortune to make my students put up this play in front of Swami. And, he was supposed to come on a particular day, And those who have worked with me with drama and all that, they know how I'm a real perfectionist. And the reason I'll tell you. When you offer something to Bhagwan, it has to be perfect. Because he's perfection itself. So the previous day, I called all the actors because the campus was getting ready for Bhagwan's visit. So we didn't have any empty place or the auditorium to practice. So I brought them to my quarters and I said, we'll do the rehearsal. 9 perfect rehearsals. Then we stop. 9 perfect rehearsals. The play has the duration of 45 minutes. And if they made a mistake, start all over again. That was the kind of hard taskmaster I used to be. Okay. But eventually, we did it 11 times. Meantime, we got a message that Bhagwan is not coming to the campus. That was late at night. So everybody went away disappointed. And I thought, oh my God, we did so much of hard work and all that. The next day, actually, I was supposed to go after Bhagwan's visit. I was supposed to come to Bangalore and then go to Gujarat on some personal work. So I was happy Swami is coming, so it will be all over, and after that I can leave. So my brother had said that he'll call me at 7 o'clock to confirm what time, which bus, whatever I would be coming to Bangalore. So I went in the morning. Exactly 7 o'clock, because I know that my brother knows me, so he will call exactly at 7. At 7 o'clock, that landline, which is kept outside, you girls know it is near the water cooler in those days, it rang. And I picked up the phone. I was about to say Sairam, and the other end somebody said, Swami is on his way to Anantapur. So, he said he's not coming, but all of a sudden he changed his plans. And I put down that phone and I was nonplussed. And just then the telephone rang. And then I said, Bhaiya, I can't talk to you right now. I'll call you later. Swami's coming. So I just went in a rush. We put up this play. And all the way, he was coming from Puttaparthi to Anantapur, and from Anantapur he was coming to Bangalore. So on the way he was visiting Anantapur. And Dr. C Patel, who was our family doctor in Kampala, he had accompanied Swami. And he told me many years later that on the way from Anantapur to Bangalore, the whole distance, all that he spoke about was Kampala girl and Mirdad. That is how much he enjoyed that play. But after the play, we all rushed, all of us who were involved in the play, you all know, we sort of put certain things in place and then rushed to the hostel dining hall, because that's where Swami would have lunch with us and then leave. And we were right at the back, behind, standing, because we were the last ones. People were already seated for lunch. We were standing. Swami walked up all the way from where he was sitting near the Jula and came there, and he said, I liked the play very much. It was perfect. Everything was perfect. The script, the dialogues, good English, very beautiful, very poetic. The dressing, the makeup, the music, everything was perfect. I'm going to call you to put it up again at Prashantanil. Okay, after that, so and he fulfilled his wish, but because I don't have time, it's okay. We can always meet some other day and continue it. Because I have so many interesting experiences related to all the plays that I directed and how Swami spoke to me regarding certain things. But the important thing was, afterwards, when Swami had left, and I went to the principal's house to tell her that in a short while, in an hour or so, I'll be leaving for Bangalore. Her husband told me that all the time Swami was seated there near the Jula, he said he was talking about you and your standard of English. And he said, she has been with me from when she was a baby. And that time, it struck me, Actually, I came to Bhagwan's fold in 1968, and then to Anantapur in 72. But Swami was referring to my childhood, when I was always connected with God. I told you about my upbringing, and I had many times dreams in which, Krishna, or later on, of course, Swami and these deities whom I used to worship would say that, I will call you to me very soon. So, then it struck me that probably he was referring, we don't know what is that Purva Janma connection we have with Swami and what makes him. Okay, I just want to conclude. I don't like to, exceed time. I thought I had 1 hour and 20 minutes, so that's why I didn't realize it was just 1 hour. But anyway, I wanted to say something about the mass marriages that we organized, the alumni, messengers of Sathya Sai, but we'll leave it for some other day. I want to conclude by saying that Bhagwan is a giver. When he was extremely pleased with our performance of Mirdad, he came next day, because if I tell you the details it will go on, but he came and gave us saris, and then he held one sari separately, and he was, swinging it like this, and he came saying, he gave it to the students first, again went inside to get 2 different saris, and then he's swinging his hands like this with the sari, and he said, director, director, and then he came to me and gave the sari. Okay. After that, he came from his dining room side, there's a door where the ladies sit. He came there to give 2 big boxes of sweets for the participants, the actors. And even then, he was not satisfied. He was full of happiness. He wants to give and give and give. His love is like that. So when we were going in the college bus, he came out in his car and he gave us a wave when we were reaching that Vidya Mandir, that arch. Okay. Vidyagiri arch, sorry. And so we were really excited. We had just stopped there for some cool drinks. We thought the students deserved that, at least for all the hard work, and Swami saw us there, and he came out only because he wanted to once again wear it. You can imagine how much joy he gave. So he's a giver. Even during Christmas, he would see us doing some decoration in the night, and he'll come with something he wants to give to add to the decoration. He's always a giver, wants to give something to you, especially when he's very happy with you. So remember that. You will receive in abundance if you just follow Bhagwan's teachings. Now, I told you that from the beginning, it was Bhagwan's message and not his miracles. Not against miracles, by the way, but I feel that stage is over. Now we have to pass on to the next stage. Because my father used to speak of Kalki Avatar, so we were all waiting for that. And we didn't turn to Swami or come to Swami because of miracles. When we first saw Swami in East Africa, when he made his visit in 1968, we knew right away that he is the master we were waiting for. So, nobody could sway us. Nobody could make us budge from, in the early 80s, a lot of so-called form boys, as they used to be called, I don't know what you call them now, they left Bhagwan's physical fold. It's a very sad phase in Bhagwan's divine mission. At that time, some of them used to send word through their sisters or friends or somehow to tell me to do the same. I'm not exaggerating. I must have got 6 messages like that. People would see me at Prashantanilayam and say, Didi, Didi, and then They say that so-and-so told me to tell you, why are you wasting your time here? You have so much of talent. You have a bright future if you go outside. And I did not listen to them. In fact, I shot back saying, they need not worry about my future. And now also there is a lot of people from family friends from US or somebody from Hyderabad here, there, they keep calling and they saying, we are confused. Which side are you? And you know what my simple answer, even when I was director of the campus, and now, if anybody asks me, which side are you? I am on Swami's side. I am not on anybody's side. I never got confused. Be on Swami's side. You don't have to align yourself with this group or that group. Our focus should be Bhagwan and his teachings. Live those teachings in your life. What more you can do to give, when usually my birthday follows during that Akhand Bhajan time in November. Many years back, we were having lunch and my father said, is there any wish of yours which you want to be fulfilled? I said, no, Papa, every wish of mine, if at all I have any, Swami has already fulfilled. Then he said, there must be something that he has not given you. I said, no, Papa, because I'm not a good singer, so I never got the chance to sing in front of Swami. That's the only thing but that is expected because I never was a good singer. Okay, then after lunch, we went to the prayer hall. I sat behind because I was not a singer, right? So sitting behind, and suddenly, at around 2:15, Pushpa madam sent one girl behind and she said, Madam is calling you. I said, for what? Then she's saying, Madam is calling you. I said, okay. Then I don't like standing up and going about when Swami is there. Swami is to get very annoyed about that also. You should not expose yourself to everybody's vision, the drishti. But anyway, I bent down and went out of the second door and went to the front. And then I asked, ma'am, what is it, ma'am? Come and sing bhajan. I said, no, ma'am, what are you saying? How can I sing bhajan? No, you come. I said, no, ma'am. Then again I went back and sat in my place. Again she sent one student. She said, ma'am is calling. I said, what is wrong with ma'am? Why is she calling me again? I went there and she said, see, Swami has retired for the day. He used to retire after lunch and then he would not come out till, say, 4 o'clock or whatever. So at least you can sing. She would not listen to a no. So then I said, okay, ma'am, then if you say so. So I sat in front of that marble murti of Shirdi Baba, and then in my mind I told Baba, let me melt that stone heart of yours. And I chose the shortest bhajan I could think of, because I don't think, Rama Nama Bolo, Sai Rama Bolo. That is the one I did. And I was just finishing the first line and going to the second, and the girl behind was started tapping me. Swami had come out of his room and he was watching from the window. And he continued to give for the third tal. You know how in the bhajan you go for 2 tals and then you wind up, right? And he continued to tap like that his hand, and I could see him. And tears were rolling down my eyes. And I thought, even that he fulfilled. See, that is the thing. When Swami is such a giver, then what do you do for such a Lord? That's why I said, don't get confused. Just stay on Swami's side and be with Swami. In all the ups and downs, you'll face challenges. Nobody has the guts to pull me this side or that side, because they know by now, in the last 51 years, this person will not budge. So many people tried, it didn't work. So, during one interview after 2 days after Christmas, Swami called all the alumni for an interview. We were just too many of us. We were almost sitting one on top of each other, and Swami created one yellow sapphire, big one, this big. stone. And he told us at that time, we didn't know. Now I'm telling you it's yellow sapphire, but he said it's Pushyaragam. And in all that confused, we were almost sitting on each other's lap, and he went and showed us. Okay, and then he asked, who wants it? There was one girl who was working in the bank, syndicate bank. And she said, Swami, if you give it to me, I'll put it in the safe. Swami ignored, and then he went on showing. Finally, he asked for that paper. You know, he used to have white papers on the side in which he would make us put the vibhuti he created and all. He asked for that paper. He took that paper and then it just disappeared. Then he said, what is there in this hand? Somebody said, nothing. Then I was sitting there, I said, Swami, everything. Then he said, when you have this hand, when you have the creator of that Pushyaragam, why do you need that Pushyaragam at all? So, what can we do in return for all that Bhagwan has given to us, all that Bhagwan has made us into good human beings? You know, the moral values, human values that he has taught us. Because our education without character is useless. Swami says commerce without morality is useless. Science without humanity is useless. And we know that what harm any of these without values has done to the world. So, for what he has done, when he has given us everything, what is left for us to do? Live his teachings in our life, so that our life becomes Bhagwan's message. So I will conclude by saying, thy word, O Lord, is a lamp to my feet. Thy word, O Lord, is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Jai Sairam.
Sairam, it is an honor for me to render the vote of thanks today. More so for me because I was ma'am's student for 5 years through my undergrad and postgrad, and she was my guide as well. To try to encapsulate what ma'am has spoken in the last 1 hour or so is going to be a very difficult task. I don't even know if I want to try. The 1 or 2 things that really stand out for me is the simplicity of Bhagwan's teachings and the inspiration that she has given us that we need to practice these things which are apparently simple. Maybe that is some of the best things that I've learned from the talk today. Another takeaway, how generous Swami was and is with all of us. Those things are something that will be close to our heart in different ways for each and every one of us. Ma'am, thank you so much for coming here and speaking to us, sparing your time, sharing all your learnings. We really appreciate it. May I request Lama Auntie to honor Professor Patel. Auntie? Ma'am, can you? Thank you, Lama Auntie. I thank the office bearers of Sri Sathya Sai South, Sri Sathya Sai Trust Karnataka, Sri Sathya Sai Hostel Brindavan Management Committee, and the Gokulam volunteers for their tireless support and help. Also, thank you to the audiovisual team for their help. I would like to extend a warm thank you to the Brindavan Sevadal for their unstinting help, which has made this event run so smoothly. Finally, thank you to the audience for being here today to share the joy of this occasion. Coming to a couple of announcements. Medical camp will be held on the first Sunday of the month, as it is always done. The next Samarpan will be on July 16th. The speaker will be Dr. Ramesh Baheti. It will be the 146th Samarpan episode. After Arati, please assemble near the Trai gates for Trai Parikrama. Please accept prasadam before you leave. I now request Professor Rajeshwari Patel to perform the Arati. Thank you. Sairam.
Om Jai Sadguru Deva. समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो